Welcome to Modern Home Mastermind with beSpoke Brokers. I'm Shauna Glazier, designated broker and owner.
And I'm Brittany Williamson, associate broker. Shauna and I are beSpoke real estate, but we're also your guides to modern luxury across the entire state of Arizona.
Each week, we chat with masterminds shaping the modern spaces. Do you want to get a behind-the-scenes look at your design-build team's processes? Well, open communication and teamwork will lead you to successful project.
From architects to builders, designers, and more, let's explore the art of modern living together.
All right. Are you trying to decide which aspect of modern design, like natural light, indoor, outdoor flow, or sustainable materials, are most important to incorporate into your modern space? Well, today's guests, Rob Gaspard and Ben Nesbeitt, and their firm WORKSBUREAU are perfectly positioned to help as they are constantly rethinking how modern architecture shapes the places we live and work.
That's right. Rob and Ben are partners at WORKSBUREAU, a Phoenix-based architecture and design firm known for thoughtful modern work across residential, commercial, and civic projects. Rob helps lead the firm's operations and complex project delivery, while Ben brings a design-driven perspective shaped by decades of experience and a strong connection to architectural education. Together, they guide WORKSBUREAU's approach to contemporary architecture that responds to context, craft, and evolving the way people live and work.
Welcome, guys.
Awesome. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, we're excited to finally have you on the show.
Yes.
All right. You both have worked at WORKSBUREAU since the mid to late 90s. Let's hear how your approach to architecture has evolved over the years and just tell us about your story.
So let me talk. I'm going to, maybe you said since the early 90s, but let me give you the longer story.
Let's go.
We'll kind of go through that for a little bit.
Okay.
And first off, congratulations to you guys for pulling this off for the last, I don't know, it looks like you've been doing this for over a year.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
great podcast, by the way.
Thank you.
So anyway, Ben and I's relationship started working together 30 years ago. So that was in 1997. And we started at a little small studio up in New River, run by a gentleman by the name of Will Bruder. And it was a great opportunity. But Ben and I both had sort of a different pathway to getting to the desert. We're not from Arizona. Mm-hmm. Many people aren't. And so I'm going to tell a little bit of a story about how I got here. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to pass it over to Ben, and he could kind of catch up. And then we'll see how this goes. And we'll talk about some projects of the past and then move on to our present formation. At any rate, so I grew up in Louisiana, right outside of New Orleans, in a little town called Metairie. And Shauna and I enjoy riding bicycles. So to put this into perspective, if you ride a bicycle for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour in Louisiana, or at least in New Orleans, Metairie, thereabouts, your elevation is going to be zero.
Right.
Yes.
Right?
Or less.
It's flat. And so when you think about sort of what I grew up in, which was a much more dense urban environment, even residential houses, $1 million houses are 6 feet away from another home, mm-hmm. right? And so it's a front porch, it's a street, there's no long vistas, there's no long views. You can't elevate to get over anything. And so it's front porches and it's all about internal living. People don't even often have their windows open. So that's kind of the world mm-hmm. that I grew up in. And I didn't travel much out of the Louisiana area until around, well, I shouldn't say that, out of the East Coast, I should say. Family trips were always towards the East. And so it was an architecture school, and kind of going to bring us up to current, so I'm going to skip a lot of time. But it was 1992. And it was getting ready to start my last year of college, architecture, getting ready to graduate, but that last year. And our professor wanted to take us out west and do a project in Chaco Canyon. So we were going to do a visitor center. And if you don't know Chaco Canyon, it's ancient Pueblo civilizations. And I'd never seen anything later than like the 1700s, because I went to Williamsburg up mm-hmm. in Virginia, or wherever that is. And so we were going to go out there in the summer and then come back and do our project. And so a few of us who were also into mountain biking made a mountain biking trip out of going there. So we go to Chaco Canyon, which was an amazing experience for someone who's never seen those kinds of ruins or being exposed to that early ancient civilization, if you will. So back, school semester starts, and I was at LSU. And Will Bruder was invited to come up to be one of the guest lecturers. So he came up, and it was kind of the first time I was introduced to his work. I think I remember a few clips in magazines of that nature at the time. But seeing his presentation, I think we've all seen Will do his presentations, and just the work is amazing. And I was fascinated and went back to studio, started working, and then Will started running around, which he loves to do. And he popped into the studio, and I got a desk crit on my Chaco Canyon project. And at the time, I was sort of looking at Antoine Predock, big, bold moves, curved facades, big, long vistas. And I had a really phenomenal desk crit from Will. And so I was like, oh, wow, this is really good. Will never remembered that because, of course, just a guy in school, right? But it was kind of etched in my memory. So graduation comes, and I decide that I'm going to go up to Alaska. So after 1993, I moved to Alaska, and I was up there for 3.5 years. Some of my other friends moved to Arizona. Now, these are all architects. And there's a couple of parallel things going on at this time. But one of them was a trip to Phoenix in April of 1996. Did I get that right? Yeah, April of 1996. And you can imagine what that's like. You come from the cold of Alaska at this point, the humidity of Louisiana, and I show up
April in Arizona is a good time.
It's like
That's how we hook people to.
that's how you hook people, right? And so you can imagine.
Don't come in July.
My wife and I jump back in the plane and fly back, and the wheels started rolling. We're coming to Phoenix. The simultaneous thing is I was also bringing Will up. I was part of an organization up in Alaska, not the AIA, but sort of like that, bringing arts to the district and the region. And I was engaging with Will to bring him up to do a lecture and symposium on housing and context and place and how to analyze context and place through a different lens. So that's when I really got to meet Will. And then I really got excited. And I was like, oh, I really want to work for this guy. And by this time, I know I'm moving to Arizona. And I'm like, okay, I'll see how this works. I didn't have the confidence at the time. So I was like a little timid, not sure this was going to work. His work was so phenomenal. And so we leave to depart Anchorage. And there was an exposition of his work in San Francisco that just so happened to be on. And he had told me about this. And so I said, let me stop by and see. So we drive through, we took the sort of West Coast trail down, and we got to the museum, and I walked in. And so you got to put this in perspective. Sorry about that. But this was a time when we were making the transition in the profession from hand drawings to CAD, and smaller firms were still hand drawing. And I went up to Alaska, and I was full blown into AutoCAD, drafting. I was becoming a master, right? Yeah. So I show up at this exhibit, timid, and I walk in and I see all these incredible, beautiful hand-drawn drawings. And I'm like, oh, God, I can't do that anymore, right? And then I came across one project. It was Mad River Boat Trips. It's up in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. And it was the first project that the studio, Will Bruder's at the time, did in AutoCAD. And I'm not going to say the drawings were good or bad. All I'm going to say is when I saw them, I knew I could compete. And I was like, my drawings are good. I got to weigh in. So I was like,
you can help him.
So confidence came in, right? So I was still trying to figure it out. And it's kind of funny just thinking about this engagement today. You start deeply thinking about like time and space. And we didn't have the internet back then. Like it was starting, but there wasn't websites. You couldn't go online and see people's work. You'd have to go to the library and get a book, and books weren't really, not everybody had a book out. And of course, Will just got his book out the other day, right?
He did.
So anyway, so when I first got here, I was like, I got to get smart about Will's work. And so I started to search out projects and go visit them in person. And that's the beautiful thing that we've sort of take for granted because it's so easy to use the internet to see architecture, but there's nothing like experience in spaces for real, right? So I started to get familiar with his work, and we're getting close to the end of 96 and moving to 97, and I'm going to pass it over to Ben because sort of his journey to this region is a little different. And you catch back up with my story, and then I'll take back over.
I was going to say, that's one ahead. I want to hear it.
So I was originally from the Chicago area and had gone to University of Illinois. I was always believing, though, that I was headed somewhere west, and partly being into mountainous terrain. I've been a rock climber since college and like to run trails and distance routes. But as I was thinking about heading west, it was a time when California had very little work, and through a professor of mine, I got connected to Will. And there was this sense that there was like a new frontier of architecture happening here, both in terms of materiality and thinking about light and place. So in 1994, I sent Will everything I had, including a whole slide deck on the project that I built full scale. So I was always into making and constructing and craft. And my graduate thesis project, rather than being drawings and models, was actually a full scale built space in this cool 1911 ice house. And Will was thoroughly impressed. And then he hired somebody else. So about a year passes, and my wife and I were leaving Illinois and heading out west. She had a job teaching at Berkeley. And we thought, well, as we visit friends and travel through the States, doing some climbing along the way, we'll pay a call on Will, and we'll go see some more of his buildings. And before we had left his table, I had a job offer.
Wow.
That I was not expecting. And wound up actually working on the Hummingbird House, which Rob will talk about in a minute. But it became this entree to a world where we were thinking about, like I said, materiality, craft, and light. And where being rigorous about concepts was really closely fused to care for clients. And the amount that we learn about clients, take to heart and understand their living patterns. Where do you like to use your laptop on a Saturday morning? What do you do after work? Not just, okay, what are some of your hobbies, but what's your entertainment and what is your extended family scene like? We would go deep with any client, whether it was a house or a commercial project. So this was, even though I had already been working several years, this was like being thrown in the deep end of the pool. And very good thing. The Townsends, the owners of the Hummingbird House, became great friends. And we've found over time that clients do, in most cases, become these close friends for us for a great number of years.
Absolutely. And so the Townsend House, which we have a little bit of parallels, is kind of the start of Ben and I working together, even though it was with Will. So journeying around trying to find architecture, I run into the Hummingbird House under construction in December of 1996.
We have some photos of that house. Right?
Yeah, if you want, you could pop the Hummingbird House up. It's probably project number 3. But I run into the Hummingbird House under construction, and the contractor superintendent was on site. It was a Sunday. It was after a mountain bike ride at Pima and Dynamite. And at any rate, he was like, you guys look really excited about this kind of work. Will's really busy. And at that time, we talk about evolution of how we practice. We would do these builder sets. And then there's a lot of details that were happening along the way while the contractors are building. And they're chomping at the bit to get these details so that they can finish and move the project along. At any rate, he was like, if you really like this, Will's busy, you should reach out. And so I finally got the guts to reach out and got an interview. It was January 1st of 1997, and got hired and started like whatever that next day was, that after the weekend, because I think that was a weekend. And so I walked into the studio and I meet Ben. Ben is the project manager for the Hummingbird House. He was deeply in the drawings and everything in the design of this house. And this fireplace that you see here is the first project I did when I walked in. And so they had a sketch and they introduced me to it, and I had to hand draw it. And so we were meeting with a gentleman that you may know, amazing master fabricator, Arlen Lewis. But at any rate, I stood up all night to draw this drawing, a construction document to describe how to build this fireplace. And so this fireplace in this project is this series of aluminum panels that hangs off of a cantilever concrete slab a glass wall of 100 feet, approximately 50 feet to the right of it, 40 feet to the left of it, glass in the middle, and it's a fire feature with these, if you can go to the next slide, with these crushed glass pellets in the bottom, so the fire comes out of the pellets. But that project was like the first thing, and so I got to work with Ben for the next series of months until this house was completed. And so our journey of working together started a long time ago, and we learned collaboration and enjoying each other. And so just to kind of jump through a little bit to get to WORKSBUREAU, so the first 15 years we worked together with Will Bruder and went from associates to partners. So it was in 2006 we became partners with Will Bruder, ourselves, and another gentleman, Richard Jensen. And it was in 2012 when we transitioned from Will Bruder to form WORKSBUREAU, the three of us did. And so WORKSBUREAU, now we're kind of entering into our 15th year as well. And so, as Ben was mentioning earlier, he mentioned the fact that there are these relationships. So when we talk about some of our architecture, it sort of stems from this world that we learned from Will. And so the Pond House, if you want to jump to that, the first project.
I love knowing this history.
Me too.
I absolutely love
It's
it.
a history that not a lot of people really fully know.
Yeah, I didn't.
And unless you kind of have been around for a long time, that history is not known.
yeah.
So
We
appreciate
actually worked together with Will for more years than anyone has.
Really?
anyone.
Does he know all these little side stories about how much does he?
He probably does.
Yeah.
Yeah, he probably does.
Okay.
So at any rate, the Pond House up in Cave Creek, this was a friend of myself and my wife's, and lawyers, him and his wife were lawyers, and very busy people. And he acquired this property that he called the Pond House, the Pond property. It was up towards Fleming Springs, up Schoolhouse Road area,
Yep.
up in Cave Creek.
Very familiar.
And, you know, I was young at the time. I wasn't like into business development and all that stuff. And he was telling me about this property and that he was going to hire this architect in Flagstaff to help him figure out how to create this getaway home up in the Sonoran Desert. And I talked to him, and I think if my memory's correct, I wrote him a letter that sort of explained how I would approach your project. And after about 6 months, he called up and he said, "Hey, I'm interested in talking." And I said, "Well, let me introduce you to Will. Why don't you come on in?" And so one of the things about this house is it's a wash. And so we have this pond at the bottom that just so happens to hold enough water. It's got enough depth to hold water, and it's shaded with the trees. And it's on this rock ledge. And up above the house actually is about another 15 feet. So when you drive in, you're actually at the level of the roof. And so the whole thought is when you drive into this house, your experience begins to change, leaving this crazy,
Desert. Yeah.
you know, fast-paced world of lawyers in Phoenix. As you drive up to the desert, you sort of start to relax, and that relaxation starts to happen through the drive. And then you pull into the driveway, and the idea was there was going to be a water feature, a little pond, small pond, that tied to the big pond. But the water would sort of overflow and drip out. And then you would walk down this set of stone carved steps in this 15-foot sort of cliff edge, bluff, if you will. And the water would trickle down the steps and sort of lead you down to the entry to the doorway. And then through sort of magic and mirrors, the water would then come out again at the bottom, right underneath the concrete deck, and then also supplement water into the pond. So that was sort of like the catch. That was the catch to the whole house. And so that stuck. And I don't have a picture to show you, but that's what happens on the other side. Yeah. So you can see how it's tucked away. It was our little falling water. And if you want to go to the next slide.
It doesn't even look like it's in the desert.
No, it's not. And so this Will's idea was this big curving stone wall that was the same materiality of the landscape of that region. And so it anchored the house. And, if you're looking at this picture, entries right at this level, but you enter from a staircase that's way up there that you come down this wall. And then it's a lot of sort of cabin material, elevated finish. So it's a rough sawn plywood wall finish, big vast openings to the porch, and a lot of comfortable furniture.
Is that a meme?
That is. That is.
This was built by 180 Degrees, one of their earlier projects.
Oh, really?
This was.
Yeah.
And so this is a client that we still work with today. And so there's actually another project in here that we did with him.
So does the client still live there, or they sold this?
No, they actually did sell the house.
Yeah.
Divorce happens and things like that, but yeah.
Yeah. So Phoenix does have such a unique climate. Obviously, you have made use of the different climates that we have here in Phoenix, but how does designing here in the Sonoran Desert influence the way you think about light, space, the way people live in these homes?
Well, we found that listening to a place and taking it in to understand the context, living with it for a while, letting it seep in, is the primary thing for us. We could show you one other house that comes up just after this, because it's in thinking about listening to place. It's not only Sonoran light, which is so intense, so radiant, and diffuses through any small aperture that you give it. The sun will find its way. But in completely other climates, we found that letting light take on its own qualities is key. Can we go to the next house? So we wanted to share this because this was another house that we had done in the early 2000s in the time that we were with Will. And this is in the Bay Area, Marin County, just north of San Francisco. And so you think, well, why would someone hire desert architects? And the answer is that this client had stayed in a house that was done by Will for his cousin in Phoenix, backed up to the Sonoran Preserve, and said, okay, if I can ever commission architecture, this is who I want to hire. So I was working alongside Will on this house, and we had this idea of a house that would have no shade overhangs except for these brows, these awnings made of fiberglass. So it was like the idea of these arcs in the sky for this house that wrapped around the hillside. And that's where the house got its name, actually. It was known as Sky Arc.
Very fitting.
Is very, very fitting. So this family lives with a combination of guest and spaces for the residents themselves, plus design studio space for her and a music studio for him. Go to the next. So as you enter the house from the driveway side, you don't even know that this magnitude of the house exists down below, tucked into the hillside. But then as you go forward,
It almost gives you,
It just opens up.
it's like
Yeah.
the compression and
the
release.
compression and release
Yeah.
totally is. So I share this with you because, getting back to your question about living in the Sonoran Desert inside and outside spaces, there is this fusion that happens, I think, in the West as well, but you'll see it in work that we've done around the world, whether it's here, Paris, Saudi Arabia, Colorado, or Paradise Valley, that there's this linkage between inside and outside, and there's a way that we think about programming spaces that is not just the house, but we work closely with landscape architects and we think about the whole site really from day one. So a house might be 4,000 square feet in this case, or 7,000 square feet, some houses we'll look at coming up. But outside, there might be a few more thousand more square feet, or there might be acreage. But we're thinking about, okay, what is it to play, to entertain, to read a book on a Saturday morning outside? And how do you welcome a guest, or where does family hang out? One other question that had come up a great deal with this house, but then also especially around the time of COVID, you probably heard this before, but work from home situation with outside access.
Yes.
Turns out people love and hate working remotely,
Very true.
but we found ourselves providing for it. And in the case of this house, go to the next. The client had an avocation, which was music. So this is actually a separate building, music studio outbuilding that is shaped by its acoustics. Every one of these origami fan folds in fabric and plaster in this space has something to do acoustically. And really it's designed like a set of mirrors for sound and reverberation. But with this sort of Japanese painting of the coast live oaks just outside the window.
That's beautiful.
So this was my good friend Matt's recording studio, the live room space. And he remains a friend and a client today, just about 20 years later.
So acoustically, did you have to bring in another type of engineer or architect?
We did.
Yeah.
We did. Same gentleman who had worked on multiple recording studios in New York and Boston.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the interesting thing, and this idea of collaboration too, because these kinds of things are collaborative efforts between the sort of pragmatics of the data that supports acoustics within space, as well as architecture and design, and really making it special like it is here. And,
Yes.
yeah. So I was going to maybe tie into that question a little bit too, and thinking about where I started from, which was this idea of internal houses, living rooms, dining rooms, and a little bit of a front porch. The Sonoran Desert really opened me up to a whole different exposure of materials. We were a lot of brick in Louisiana. Here, when I first got here, it was a lot of CMU and stone. And it's kind of interesting because I think the times have changed.
For our
a little
listeners
bit.
that don't know what CMU
Concrete
is.
masonry units. It's like a raw
Thank you.
masonry block
Yeah.
that we in the 80s, 90s, and maybe early 2000s, you'd see a whole lot more of it. Wendell Burnett's house is all CMU block, and there was this rawness to materiality that was prevalent of that time. And I think things have sort of evolved a little bit. I think there's a lot more refinement in material choices today and elegance. And there's a different balance between how you use those materials and play between inside, outside. Yeah. We really like to expose volumetric forms in our architecture that bring the inside materiality to the outside and vice versa. And by using glass to transition between those forms and then opening up walls and having that experience.
And Rob, if I could interject,
Yeah.
I just want to say that when we use this weird word materiality, maybe everyone knows what we're talking about.
Maybe not.
But it has to do with not just the material, like is it limestone or is it concrete or stainless steel, but the quality of that thing, the feel of it, the tactile nature, the reflection, the real kind of essence that you get. So when you really cultivate the materiality in a building, you start to get an atmosphere or an ambiance. And, it takes on a deep feel. Peter Zumthor once said that materials can shine and vibrate. Like, wow.
So true.
Yeah.
It's so true. You walk into, especially these spaces that have been so intentionally designed with that materiality, in mind, and you definitely feel it. It's not just something that you're seeing.
Right.
Thanks for sharing that. I'd really like to dive into some of your newer projects that you guys are working on. I know we have some slides up here.
Sure. So with a gentleman named Jordan Vassbinder, we've worked on about 5 houses together. And they range from East Arcadia to Paradise Valley, but they're all cultivating this idea of inside and outside living and the kind of modern program that we've found. So these being actually spec houses are aimed at a variety of scenarios, whether somebody is working in a home office or has an extended living or generational family situation. The idea is versatility. But between ourselves and our client, we developed this one, Calle del Norte, as a kind of modern farmhouse, a set of several pavilions for living, sleeping, and working. Mm-hmm. And as you go inside, you have this sort of light-filled space, partly shaded by a trellis, coming into a great room that is skylit from the vault, from the ridgeline, and connected to its outside pool deck and entertainment area. Turns out this house has none of the exact living scenarios we envisioned, which is great because it means we really hit versatility.
Yes.
Even beyond the ones we could conceive of. So today it's a home office for one executive, but then the rec room upstairs on the right is an artist studio.
I was wondering kind of what the difference is for you, because you have talked so deeply about getting to know your clients and having that relationship and knowing how they live and what their daily life is. What's it like creating these spec homes? Like how do you go into that process differently?
Without knowing who the
Without
end
knowing
user
who
is.
the end user is.
That's exactly right. So there's a lot of scenario play
Yes.
and thinking about roles that rooms can take on, ways that a house can live or evolve. And we try to think about that with our buildings in general anyway, because part of sustainability is thinking about how something can adapt,
Yes.
be relevant in its next life and its next life.
To its next family. Or
Well, I
whoever's
was going to
moving
say,
in.
hopefully you're consulting real estate professionals during that too, because we're the ones, I mean, if
Yeah.
your
Understood.
developer, the goal is to sell it at the end of the day, we know what people are asking for.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you said that because we have done roundtables with
Yeah.
real estate professionals that are in the room at the design table early on as we're even just thinking about organization and patterns before we're even at like real architecture.
Yeah.
It is a lot of role playing. So you also know we do a bit of multifamily work as well, and it's the same thing because they're rentals, and so you're working with your developer and the client and agents, and you're trying to do a demographic of the market that might be interested in the product that you're working towards, and so you are role playing the person, and you're stereotyping the persons that might be interested, and so you're trying to create the environments that you envision they would like. And then a lot of times you kind of put your own self into them. Right? You're like, well, would I like that?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like that. I
have to.
It's funny because sometimes, and Ben plays the big hand in a lot of the design of the work. And I'll look at a house and I'll be like, yeah, I could live in that one.
Yeah.
That's, I could live there. And that's always a great feeling. Like, I could live there.
Well, and in this house and the next one, I also want to just shout out a little bit to our colleague Elizabeth Ryder, who played a really giant role in these houses. This is the Casablanca South house.
Just the hardscape and the approach or the curb appeal is, I mean, I rode my bike by it this morning. It's a
Yeah,
great.
this is one of my favorite
At least
spec
once a
houses I've
week.
been in.
Yeah, at least once. Well, I want to say though, it doesn't feel like a spec house. I didn't see the other one that was just on, but I have seen this one, and
So
kudos
do you also know that the one next door?
is your
Okay.
yeah.
All right.
Just north.
It's just we see so much spec on out there in the market, and these don't
Yeah.
feel like a spec. It feels
don't.
like your developer has given enough of the budget to the design and the finishes that it feels like this was a custom home for an end user.
It does.
And it's a lot
I
easier
think
to
that's
sell.
true. And I think there's a feeling that they're maybe a little less generic than some spec
Yes.
houses are. So in this one and a couple of houses, we've explored the idea of a sort of modern version of the hacienda with arrival courtyards and the sense of serene gardens. And in this case, there's a very quiet entrance garden on the one side, and then you eventually get through living space, which leads you out to the much more active, you've been invited in, you're now with the family, or you're the resident. But even this house has the combination of the primary suite, much more quiet on the left, and recreation on the right with a sort of casita guest space.
These local projects are beautiful, But I hear that you're doing some stuff on an international stage. Do you mind sharing some of that with us?
Absolutely. And we were really lucky back in 2009 to get connected to an international client. And again, we said earlier, all of our work is really focused on building solid relationships with people. It's really important to us to get to know people and to get to like people and to develop these relationships that last and last and last. And I think when you know that about a person, it's easy to design for them, right? And so all the international work that we're going to share with you is built on that initial relationship. So one family, one connection, and we've done so much work for these people. And so an opportunity in Paris that Ben got the opportunity to work on.
So we talked a little bit earlier about absorbing a place and taking in the light of that place. I had studied in France for 1 year, and so when our Saudi client said, hey, I need a referral, I need to find an architect for an apartment I want to do in Paris, we said, well, let's raise our hand.
Yes, why not?
And
Let's take it in.
so he had assembled these 3 studio apartments that all put together are just a little bit over 900 square feet. And we said, okay, 900 square feet. We do things compactly in Europe, unlike Phoenix or Saudi Arabia. But with our Saudi client, we said, what do you want? He said, well, let's keep the middle studio as living, kitchen, dining, and each of the other 2 studios, 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. When's the last time you saw 4 bedrooms and 4 bathrooms with queen beds
In
in
900 square
feet?
Wow.
Oh my goodness.
So is this the whole kitchen we're looking at in the back?
That's the whole kitchen. It's quite compact.
It is.
It uses European appliances and it's fully functional. But we were very fortunate because in this space, there were 3 French doors leading out to a terrace, rooftop level with a view towards the Eiffel Tower.
Wow.
But then there were also 3 light wells coming down into the space, bringing this sort of soft silvery Parisian light with a little blue cast into the kitchen and the bedrooms in the back. So that became this lovely infusion of sky that we didn't expect when we first heard about the site. But they were already there for the using. We just expanded them with more glass. And then the idea became, if we go to the next, that the bathrooms are these compact glass lanterns with silk curtains with light coves above them so that they really feel like they are lanterns onto the space. So here in one of the bedrooms, you're seeing light well on the right, glass fluted door to one of the other bedrooms beyond, then the bathroom as this sort of filter, if you will,
Just a
like
curtain.
a screen. Yes.
It's definitely a compact space, but it's very high end.
Yes.
Very high end.
Very high end.
And ultimately, it's a shower that we might find in a normal house, like in Arizona, not like some of the ones you've tried to cram yourself into if you traveled through Italy at small hotels. So we talk about constraints, we talk about the life pattern of the client, and ultimately the light of the place.
This is gorgeous.
So this was actually our first Saudi Arabia project. So a little small firm, WORKSBUREAU, doing 650,000 square feet, 19 stories. You can just flip through these really quick.
Wow. So you've
Resi-
done
that was
multiple
a-
projects now in
That was
Saudi
a
Arabia.
residential tower right there.
Yes.
So, it was-
Wow.
so we don't have to spend a lot of time, but that was like the first foray. And we were competing with firms all over the world. And we did such a good job. And this is sort of like patting our
Yeah,
backs, right?
go
We
for
did
it.
such a good job that client that we were talking about that we did the Paris house for continued to hire us to do more and more and more projects on these sites.
What a great project to work on. What was the name of that one?
That was the cloud.
The Cloud Project.
And the cloud was named because one of the most difficult constraints of this was that there was a master plan done by some fantastic Danish architects who gave us a courtyard facing west and no shade from other buildings. We thought this courtyard will never be used. So the idea became that you'd have this building with a base of this yellow ochre terracotta and blue glass office building that then has a residential tower, 17 stories. It's all done in like a pale blue glass and zinc with residential units, double height lofts. But solving the courtyard became this shade canopy that's like having an acre and a half under one shade on 3 columns. So that cloud of PTFE fabric became not only shade for a public garden, but an office terrace and a residence garden up on the 3rd floor.
Wow.
So what we did here, as Rob said, became the seed of the long relationship with the client. Yeah.
This is under the
So,
canopy.
and this
This
is
is all
yes.
under the canopy.
Sorry, I forgot
Wow.
we had that image. So yes, this is under the canopy. And the idea is that the western sun is excluded, but if you look northeast, you see blue sky.
Will that material ever have to be replaced? The
Not for
fabric?
50 years.
Yeah, it's got a
50
long
years.
life.
Okay.
It's got a long
That's where
life.
your expertise working in the desert came in
Yes.
handy.
And
Right
actually,
there.
that's why we got hired,
Okay.
because of our knowledge
desert,
and
yeah.
experience with desert architecture.
Yeah.
Well, now the cloud name makes sense. You
does.
guys made a cloud. And you have a few other projects that you did here?
Yeah, there's one other project that we've done in Saudi Arabia for the same client, and Ben, you want to share that one real quick?
Sure. So working with the family of the gentleman who was the CEO of the financial district when we worked on cloud, we have worked on the Paris apartment that you saw, but also this extended family estate, which is 6 houses for 5 brothers and their mom and 3 other buildings. So it's
This is residential.
this
Residential.
And essentially one large estate.
Wow.
one large estate
Yeah,
ringed around a sort of elliptical park in the middle
This is amazing.
with a wadi, which is an Arabic word for ravine
yeah.
or a low wetland.
It is incredible.
So if we think about it like in the desert, you'd have a riparian area, but when there's a huge storm, a haboob, we know this is where water will collect and then it'll be filtered out to the wadi adjacent to this property.
I think the other thing interesting about the work that we've done in these other regions is understanding cultural differences. And Ben, I'm sure, might talk a little bit about that in some of the design, but we have our Western culture. And although many of our clients over here, of the whole family, have been educated in the West, they understand the Western culture, they still have their culture. And learning how to separate public and private space and the modesty of the way their lifestyle is an interesting one. So it's always fun to learn how people live.
Definitely.
And one of the elements of that here is that for most of the families, there are formal reception spaces. And there became this idea of these oval or rounded towers that have a double height grand reception space for the families that want them. Now, for 2 of the gentlemen who did not need that function, it became just a great living, great room space with a loft, or as we call it for our friend and client, is New York loft space in Saudi Arabia. But there was also in this project a kind of family of elements for a family of people. So go back, please. So there's the tower forms, but then there's also the kind of glass lanterns, which are above family entrance spaces. Sometimes the houses have to have 2 entrances for the families and for the guests.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So
2 living rooms, 2 everything.
that's right. So let's go forward. The houses are clad in copper and indigenous limestone. There's this sort of Riyadh limestone with a golden aura to it.
They look gold.
And so this is all taken from a quarry very, very near the site. And when the client said that's what they wanted to use, we were thrilled to have that tie to the place.
And this project has been completed?
It's under construction. So it's
Yeah.
a multi-year construction project. There's some images that I think we've shared with you.
So in each house took on a persona, even though there's a similarity or commonalities to the exterior. This one of the brothers is into hydroponic gardening. So hanging over his dining table, there's a set of trailing plants that come from an atrium up at the roof. And by the way, this is pretty much everyone's favorite house.
Yeah.
I could imagine.
It's got an intimacy to it, right?
And there's this use of the wood, which is a third cladding after the copper and the stone, which warms it. So we talk about where modern architecture sometimes leaves people cold. Well, what if it were warmer than that? Or what if it was more intimate?
Well, and the plants bring in this biophilic nature, right?
It does.
And here you see it under construction. This is early days. So it's much farther than this now.
We actually just got some images yesterday on the construction, but they were just contractor images that we didn't put into the presentation. But yeah,
Are you guys going to get final photos? Are they going to?
Yeah,
So you
absolutely.
can submit it. Yeah.
absolutely.
That'd be great.
So there, where you were in the stair hall, that's an element that is part of the family of common elements. So here we're looking at the overall complex. We'll never say compound because it's much more open than that. It's much more, let's say, curb and street friendly in terms of windows and not being walled to the outside. But here you're seeing the view onto the central wadi. And this oval in the foreground is a place where we're building a piece that's just called the Shade Pavilion. It's sort of like a center garden folly, if you will. It's just a wood conical space. And its only job is that Shauna and Brittany can go sit there and drink tea with your feet in the water.
Oh,
That's-
my goodness. This is truly incredible.
Yeah,
I can imagine that was a fun project to
Yeah.
work
it
on,
was. It was.
for sure.
So we appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right. We like to do a little rapid fire. Since we've gone a little over, one word or one sentence to answer these questions. You ready?
We're wordy.
All right. If friends come to visit Phoenix for the first time, what's one place you like to take them? Like a favorite restaurant?
Sedona.
Or okay.
There you go.
Or
That's the first thing that came to my
Good
mind.
I would say the mountain preserves.
Yeah, of course. The climber and the runner.
Right. What's your favorite way to escape the Phoenix heat? Where do you like to go?
I like the Phoenix heat, to be quite frank. I don't escape. My wife escapes. I don't escape.
Okay.
I like it.
I happen to like it too here in the summer.
I've enjoyed when we've worked in Boulder,
Okay.
to be honest.
Yeah.
Boulder's
a
love
cool
Boulder,
spot.
yeah. Hiking or biking? I know this one, but
Biking.
I'm gonna say hiking all day.
yeah.
One piece of advice for someone building their first modern home.
Hire a good architect.
Good one.
Absolutely, and give us everything you can. Tell us the most that you can think of. You're not holding us back. You're giving us tools.
True.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great advice. If you weren't an architect, what career would you try?
Woodwork.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd have to go construction. I'd have to be a contractor.
Yeah.
That looks painful to say.
Can't get too far
It
away.
is. It's what I do as a hobby, more than anything else. As far as I'm a do-it-yourselfer, and I just really enjoy building things.
Good.
Well,
Goes
and
hand in
obviously
hand.
with woodwork, you do as well, and that's creative too.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for coming on our show. We are going to link all of your contact information in our show notes, but if you wouldn't mind telling our listeners the best place to find you.
Well, the best place is the internet. So we have a website, WORKSBUREAU.com. We also have an Instagram feed that is kept up weekly, and those are two great spots to check us out and see the work for yourself.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank
Hopefully
you.
that went all right.
Yeah, that's
All right.
great.
That's it for today's episode of Modern Home Mastermind. If you've enjoyed the show, please subscribe, like, and rate.
Thanks to our guests for sharing their insights and to you for learning about everything modern with us.
And if you're ready to take your next step in your real estate journey, please reach out to us at beSpoke Real Estate and keep living, loving everything modern.